You never really think about how much sound your house makes until you're trying to convince yourself you're completely alone in it. It's almost worse when nothing makes sense, when everything feels normal, and then you hear that knock. Not just once, but slowly, intentionally, like someone knows you're inside. These are 3 real stories. 3 nights. 3 knocks I can't explain. Story 1, the knock on the glass. This happened during my final year of university. I was living off campus in a small, aging duplex that had paper-thin walls and huge sliding glass doors leading to the backyard. It was a Tuesday night, around 11 p.m. I had just turned off the TV and was getting ready for bed. My roommate was out for the night. She worked late shifts at the hospital, so I had the whole place to myself. The house was quiet, except for the usual hum of the fridge and the occasional creak from the old hardwood floors. I was brushing my teeth when I heard the sound. Tap, tap, talk. It came from a living room, from the back of the house. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth. It wasn't a knock on the front door. It was softer, more deliberate. Tap, talk. This time I knew it was coming from the glass, the sliding door that led to our tiny backyard. I turned off the bathroom light and stood in the dark for a few seconds, trying to listen. The house felt like it was holding its breath. No wind, no rain, just that heavy nighttime silence. Then it came again. Talk, tap, tap. I crept down the hallway, heart pounding so hard I could feel in my ears. I didn't have a weapon, so I picked up my metal water bottle from the kitchen counter. The light above the stove was on, casting a faint glow across the floor. I reached the living room and looked toward the sliding glass door. Nothing. No figure. No movement. But the porch light was off, so I couldn't see more than a few feet into the yard. I stood there for a solid minute, staring, waiting. My breath fogged the glass. Then I saw it. A handprint, pressed up against the outside of the glass. Not fresh, more like someone had just pulled it away. The condensation from the cold night had made it stand out. 5 long fingers, smudged slightly, and lower than you'd expect, like someone had been crouching. I ran to my bedroom, locked the door, and called campus security. They showed up 20 minutes later and did a sweep of the property. Nothing was missing, no sign of forced entry. Just one thing. The fence gate in the back was wide open. To this day, I don't know who was out there. I never saw their face, but sometimes when I'm home alone, I still find myself staring at that sliding door, waiting for another knock. Story 2, down the hall. The second story happened in 2021, just after my grandfather passed away. I had flown out to stay at his house in a rural part of Oregon to help clean things up, sort through his things. The house was old, creaky, with thick walls and deep shadows. It had that smell that older homes get, like dust and wood and old memories. I was staying alone for a few nights until my cousins arrived. The first night was fine, uneventful, quiet, aside from a few floor creaks and wind rattling the gutters. But the second night, something changed. It was around 2 a.m. I'd been lying awake in bed, unable to sleep. I was scrolling through my phone when I heard it. Knock, knock. I sat up instantly. The sound came from inside the house, like a knock on a wooden surface, maybe a wall or a door. I waited. Knock, knock, knock. This time, it sounded like it was coming from the hallway, like someone tapping gently on the wall just outside my room. I turned off my phone screen and held my breath. The hallway light was off, but night light near the bathroom cast a pale glow. I slowly crept toward the door and opened it just a crack. The hallway was empty. Then I noticed something strange. One of the picture frames on the wall, one that had been hanging straight earlier that day, was now slightly tilted, like it had been bumped. I stared at it, like I was screaming that something was wrong. I grabbed the flashlight and checked every room, closets, basement, even under the beds. Nothing. I even tried to rationalize it. Maybe the house was just shifting. Maybe the frame fell on its own. I went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. And just before sunrise, as the birds started chirping outside, I heard it one more time. Knock. One single, soft knock, coming from the inside of the bedroom closet. That was the last night I stayed in that house alone. Story 3, the screen door. This happened just last summer, while house sitting for my aunt and uncle in the countryside. Their home sat at the edge of a wooded area, far from the nearest neighbors. They had a huge wraparound porch and a screen door that squeaked every time it opened. It was peaceful, or at least it seemed to be. One night, I was watching TV in the living room. It was late, maybe 11:30 p.m. The porch light was off, and I had just turned everything down low so I could fall asleep on the couch. That's when I heard it. Creak, the screen door, slowly opening. I muted the TV, listened, then nothing. I figured maybe it was the wind. But a few minutes later, I heard knocking. Not on the front door, on the side window of the living room. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. I walked over, trying not to make a sound, peered through the blinds. No one there. And then, I heard the screen door shut, loud and firm, like someone was still out there, walking from one side of the porch to the other. I backed up, grabbed my phone, and called my uncle. He picked up groggily and told me to turn on the porch light and not to go outside. He said the motion sensor would catch anything if it was real. I turned on the light. Nothing. But right there, on the porch railing, was something I hadn't noticed before. A small figurine. It looked like a carved owl. My aunt collected those, but this one was different, rougher, like it was handmade, and it hadn't been there earlier. I took a picture of it and sent it to my aunt the next day. She said she'd never seen it before. Neither had my uncle. They installed security cameras the following week. Nothing ever showed up on the footage. These weren't ghost stories. They weren't paranormal, at least not in the way movies make them out to be. But they were real. Sometimes the worst part of being alone is knowing you're not.